This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
You're listening to Talking Heads with Naughty and Mary Jane. Only on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM.
Kane is in the building.
Yeah! Alright, the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun up? Just remember when you come up, the show goes on. Alright.
Talking Heads with Naughty and MJ is brought to you by Burger King, Easy Car Sales, Fine Threads, John's Department Store, KFC, Naughty Johnny's, Prince Masters, and Tropical Gyros.
Have you ever had the feeling that you was being had? Don't that shit that make you mad? They treat you like a slave, put chains all on your soul and put whips up on your back. They be lying through their teeth, hope you slip up off your path. I don't switch up, I just laugh, put my kicks up on they desk, unaffected by they threats. Then get busy on they see, that's how that shit tell me, man. That's how my daddy raised me. That glittering may not be gold.
You've got it locked and loaded to the Tuesday, February 17th edition of Talking Heads. Your boy Naughty along with MJ in your company right up until 6 p.m. It is Tuesday. We have a very special guest, and we're going to jump right in. I got to get one or two little housekeeping matters out of the way, but our very special guest today is the leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition, F&M leader, Mr. Michael Pintard. Pleasure to have him back on the show. Looking forward to a candid conversation. And if you want to chime in and be part of the conversation, here's how.
Here's how you can become a talking head. Brought to you by BTC.
Text lines powered by BTC, 422-GR96. That's 422-4796. Phone lines open in New Providence, 323-6232, 325-4259, 325-4316. Toll free in any one of the Family Islands, 242-300-5720, 242-300-5720. Stream us live, take us wherever you want to go, GuardianTalkRadio.com. That's GuardianTalkRadio.com. Cable channel 969, BTC Flow channel 612. That's how you get it in. That's how you get it on for fresh news, smart talk all day, right here on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. All right, with that being said, MJ.
Hey.
How art thou?
Great.
Ready to go?
Yes.
Let's do this.
It's a beautiful day, right?
Our very special guest here with us
do.
today. And I would like to welcome to Talking Heads, no stranger to the show, but glad to have him back, especially with his busy schedule. F&M leader, Mr. Michael Pintard. How are you, Mr. Pintard?
I'm excellent. Good to be back with both of you.
Good to see you. And glad you're here. First and foremost, how's everybody? How's the family? How's everything going with you guys personally?
Family is good. Just reminding the wife that I'll be on the show. And my daughter should be out of school. Yeah, she should be out of school. So
there you go. Well, before we get in, I just want to address this. Your better half did an outstanding job in Grand Bahama the other night. And I was moved by it. My better half was moved by it. It was very inspirational speech.
Yeah, I thought she did an excellent job, particularly since her presentation was very personal. But, of course, she had to address a lot of people. And I have not seen that from her before. Were you surprised that happened?
I was shocked that they actually had arranged it. She didn't let on that she would be introducing me that night.
Okay. Wow.
So, no, it was... It was powerful. I was overwhelmed.
Right.
They kept insisting that I stand by the door and I wait. And I'm like, but we have a format that we follow. I arrive. When I'm about to speak, I walk in. They take me up and we do our business on behalf of the Bahamian people. But instead, they say you got to stay. And when I saw on the platform. I wondered for a quick second what was up. Right. And then I began to listen. So I know people were touching me on the left, on the right, trying to get my attention, but I was fixated on the stage and trying to fight back the tears.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was
wow.
I was like, man,
She
they
did a great-
break it me down.
Yeah,
right
they
now.
got you good.
She did an excellent job. You might have something of a secret weapon on your hands there.
No,
Can
no,
we
see.
expect to see a little bit on the campaign trail, possibly?
Normally she makes those kinds of decisions. I know when
Okay.
she's spoken in the past at the Women's Association. Like, I
Okay.
mean, for example, I know that she's somebody who, again, commits to memory pieces of motivational, whether it's speeches or poems
Wow.
that she integrates in speeches, because she was doing this when she was in high school at St. Paul's
Oh,
as
a
well.
fellow St. Pauli
Oh,
girl.
God, why would you bring that up?
You know, I graduated from
Oh,
St.
wow.
Paul's as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
so a fellow St. Pauli girl. Amazing.
and I
That's
al-
why I was so impressed.
Okay.
This is us, you know?
And now I want to
That's
thank
fun.
you that after
That's
dinner this
crazy.
evening, I'm going to hear more St. Paul stories.
No question. And,
Thank you so much, Mr.
Wow.
Pinto.
we often go to St. Paul's Church, actually.
Oh, yes,
the
Methodist Church, right.
Yeah, so I mean, I know her capacity. It caught me off guard, and I could tell you in that moment, a lot of things happened. I mean, one, I started thinking about my spiritual life, and like I hit a reset button in many ways. I mean, because I felt like. No, I mean it's.
They get you. Listen,
no, man,
listen,
He's blushing.
listen. A man who could blush and cry is a real man.
Yeah.
Listen, it made me listening to it. It made me want to be even a better father,
Oh, wow.
a better husband, and also the mission I have in life. I know that I got from God. I always knew when I was young I wanted to be a part of empowering people, and in that moment, listening to the closest person to me. I mean, my mother.
Right.
My mother and I have been best friends for many years, and obviously, once you get married,
Right.
that it's their next level with your spouse, right? So listening to her, who knows me intimately, I mean, it did something to me. It made me refocus. It made me appreciate like how fortunate I am, and let's be real, Noddy. Sometimes, men, it isn't only men, because sometimes it's women. Like, you take for granted persons who hold you down, and I can think about when I had tough moments. I could think about when I resigned as chairman of the FNM.
Right.
I could think about times when I've been viciously and falsely attacked, and it's a lonely experience. You ask yourself the question: Who holds you down?
Right.
Who's been your ride or die?
This my rock, my inspiration, my everything. And I totally get where you're coming from, because there's been times when, in my darkest hours, homeboys who I expected to show up,
Yeah.
and family members who I expected to show up weren't
Yeah.
there, but the one constant,
Yeah. No,
my
no.
MJ. Now,
No.
see, you can get me,
He's
Mr.
gonna cry
Yaz.
now.
See?
He's gonna
See?
cry.
So
It's too much.
you know,
Keep that camera that way, young man. You ran in here in a Perry Christie old school shirt, but don't get me started on you.
Yeah, so
that was a moment
man,
for
it
you.
was a moment.
Yeah.
I mean, because many things went through my mind in that moment. Like, like sometimes I look at my daughter and I could see on my face, just like as if I'm having out of body experience, I could see on my face the expression I saw on my mother's face.
Wow.
Right? Meaning, just like there's a love you experience with your child that
Yeah.
you don't experience with anything else, anyone else. It's just different. And so in that moment, I'm thinking, here's my wife, honoring me, but more importantly, telling a story about what impact she believed I could have in this world. And it tells me that the times I'm away from home, that I know is painful to family because I'm
Right.
gone often, that she gets it, that she knows what it's about. It doesn't make it like easier on you to a large extent, because when your family is not there, it is tough. But and so that went through my mind. But with respect to my daughter, just looking at her, I'm so grateful. I didn't see that. My father had 19 or 21 children, and while I think he loved all of his children,
Right.
he was supportive. Certainly, he was supportive of me, even though I was one of the last, possibly the last. Having one child is a unique experience, but having a child when you when you know it's grace, it's God's grace, it's not because you were the best man in your dating life.
Right.
And so, looking at this little girl is a product of both of us, that God, in spite of me, blessed me with her. And I always say, man, the virtues, I want you to have both of you be virtues, right?
Right.
I was just overwhelmed about so many things, just standing there watching, and then as I walk closer to the stage, and I get on the stage and I turn and I see it there. It's like, it was symbolic. I'm on the stage. I'm about to go to the microphone. I'm going to meet this woman here who in symbolically has been there for me each time I come out of the war. When I return home.
A1 from day one.
So, and see that I could so respect that, and it's refreshing to hear it from another man's man, because when I run on about my MJ, people that but it's good to hear that other people could feel how I feel about my wife, about their wife. And it's a good thing.
It was good to see.
Yeah.
It must have been a lot of emotions for you, though, because you're back in Marcos, you're back in Freeport, right?
Yeah.
And that was quite the reception that you received in Freeport in terms of the turnout for your candidates' ratification or their launch last week. What was that like for you?
One second, before he answers that, I have to welcome him to an exclusive club,
What club is that?
No, because I was looking now. Not only is Mrs. Pintard a lawyer, 6 foot in Amazonian.
She's not 6 foot.
But anyway, look like an Amazonian warrior princess in a good way.
Yeah, no,
not in the
she's
WNBA
beautiful.
kind of way, in a good way. And I sat there and I heard her speak. And I said, you know what? Mr. Pintard has now joined an exclusive club.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 2-member club right now, but it's going to be a 3rd member when I see him. To the man that has willingly and gladly accepted the fact that he is not going to win a debate or an argument in his relationship and his marriage for the rest of his life.
Not what I say, Paulie girl. That's
So
for sure.
I want to thank you and welcome you aboard with myself and Mr. Komalafi.
Oh,
Shout out
right.
to Mr. Komalafi. And now you, Mr. Pintard, be in the club. We are now the 3 Musketeers, and I have company, and I appreciate you all being here with me.
But no, back to Freeport though. It must have been.
We married above our station.
Oh Lord.
Okay.
Stop. Yeah,
I outkicked my coverage. I know that for sure.
We're moving on. But no, being back in Freeport, the reception seemed really great. You got 5 candidates that are now ratified for Grand Bahama. What was?
I'm to be ratified. I have to wait for one more. But
true.
it's
technicality.
Yeah, no, but
yes.
So 5 candidates ready to roll.
The welcome seemed to be very strong in Grand Bahama.
Powerful.
I know that the island has gone through a lot, not just in the last 5 years, but for a very long time. I noticed that your presentation that night was very inspirational. It took on a statesman approach. It wasn't the typical rally speech.
Yes.
It was different.
Yeah.
What made you go in that direction? And let's talk about some of the things that we want to see happen in Grand Bahama.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's important to be responsive to the concerns that people have. We've put out a number of legislative proposals that we will pursue, policy positions, kinds of programs. But clearly that message has not penetrated deep enough at this stage. So every presentation that I have the opportunity to present, I want to make sure that I'm laying out once again
your plans.
Some of the correct, the plans,
important.
the policy positions, etc. Some people have decided they will not hear, so they continue to tell the same narrative, even though I know some of them have. But I do accept that there are some folks who aren't hearing sufficient of it, and so that was important. The second thing is, you could have the best of plans, but you need energy to drive it. And if people are going to be energized, 1, to pay attention, 2, to embrace, and 3, to try and work with you to implement it, they have to be inspired. And so, again, I wanted to speak to what I know some of the yearnings are in Grand Bahama. And one of those yearnings is people want to return to a period of prosperity where the politician, the preacher, the business person is not their source, but they have capacity to go out and make it rain and generate the revenue to give their children breakfast, to give their children lunch and dinner,
right,
to take care of their own needs. And so that's a part of why the transformation, the facelift is required, not just on Queens Highway, but on parts of Adventurers Way, parts of Pine Ridge and Macro City and Central and East and West, is because you can generate employment and ownership opportunities in destroying many of these dilapidated homes, getting a cadre of skilled men and women who will rebuild these communities, working to form land REITs. And Bahamians who have resources, one's pool can establish a land REIT, others can invest in. The investment dollars can be used for housing projects or building other facilities for businesses, etc. And so I wanted to really just signal that there are opportunities in giving a facelift to a Freeport, just like over the hill here in New Providence. And I also wanted to talk less about job creation and also, but more about ownership. And again, wanted to signal that it is not rocket science in terms of us building more than 1,000 homes per year in New Providence. People could run on with whatever nonsense they want about what happened when we were last in government. We are under new management. So if they stuck in evaluating the past, I'm stuck on casting what a new future can look like under my leadership and with the kind of team we have. I've built a number of units before. And when I moved into Step Street, Fox Hill, I had a single property. Built an 8-plex, next to it a 4-plex, then bought everything on that side of the street straight up to the top of the hill. Had the honor to build for one of the iconic DJs in the country, DJ Pencil and Mitzi. Their house, three-story house on the hill was one of those things I constructed. And had an opportunity to build multiple units, not just in Fox Hill and acquired more properties, but in Grand Bahama to be a shareholder in a multiplex quite quietly and off the radar. So I have a history of, as a young person working in construction, as a mason helper, as a carpenter helper, as a B-class welder, etc. So I know that what I have learned technically, what I've learned over time, that I have the ability to work with others with all that I've learned being a minister, that we can spur a housing revolution in this country. So I wanted to signal that as well.
I wonder, because I was listening to, I also watched the Progressive Liberal Party's their campaign launch last night, and I was surprised when I heard the former Minister of Housing say that they had built over 120 houses, and to me that number seemed really low. I know that we've talked about the housing crisis, we've talked about things we need to do differently in the country. That number 120, is that low to you as well? And what should we be aiming for as a country?
If you have an inventory, according to government records, of about 12,000.
Right.
So when you start talking about targets, your targets should be north of that, because government figures do not capture the true demand. And when you think about the pathways to building, you can easily see how that could be done with proper, one, cooperation in the private sector, a more efficient government sector, and financial services institutions that are poised and ready to provide funding, both locally and internationally. Of course, there also has to be legislation that, one, while it protects homeowners, what it does not do is give them the leeway to be negligent, and so that financiers cannot reclaim what is their asset. So when you think about those combination of things being put in place, you increase the chance of moving swiftly. And so there are systems built that many people know about. Many of the subdivisions that are being built now, particularly out west, is a result of people bringing in a manufacturing company and having the ability to roll out panels and assemble homes fairly quickly over time once resources are available. So I've been in discussion for quite some time with companies that have the ability to do it. We have 7 models that we have looked at that we are able to roll out. But we are not going to confine ourselves to system build. We believe in traditional construction that I engage in when I was developing homes. And again, so we believe in the 8-inch block construction. So I see a clear pathway to us accomplishing this.
What would you like to see? Like, would you, if you're elected prime minister, or your party is elected the government, and of course you would be prime minister, what would be something that you would like to see? Like, after 5 years, your administration would have built Not 120, but what?
I would say north of 5,000 homes.
North of 5,000, you would be.
And so it isn't the government. It isn't the government building. It is the government working with the private sector.
PPPs.
Correct. But we are facilitating. So facilitating means making sure that Ministry of Works work more efficiently and work in tandem with independent inspectors, so that you don't have the bottlenecks, and working with financial institutions in addition to a mortgage corporation, but not exclusively a mortgage corporation. So again, it's developing the whole ecosystem that allows you to accomplish that. We have many wonderful companies that are builders.
We do.
And if we could park in their hand a couple hundred homes that they're responsible for, no money down, if you were paying $1,200, $1,500 or $2,000 for rent, there's no logical reason in the Bahamas, with us owning the amount of crown land we own, that we cannot help persons to get in a home of different square footage.
Right.
Yeah.
Would this be an opportunity with your housing boom that I want to call it, that you've projected, if elected as the next administration, upward of 5,000 homes? Would this be an opportunity maybe to salvage a PPP with possibly Portana? Because obviously, that was an opportunity that went by the wayside with this administration. They didn't provide their end of the bargain. Would the F&M be able to put Portana on a level playing field to produce homes? And obviously, I'm bringing that up because a major component is your candidate for Garden Hills. And in transparency's sake, that's why I'm asking the question.
We believe in widespread opportunities being given to multiple Bahamians across the spectrum to build homes. And again, this is a country of rules and laws. We ought to have a simple 1 through 20 list of requirements for persons who could respond to a request for proposal in order to build homes. And I believe where subdivisions are being built, we ought to have a community center in larger communities. We ought to have senior assisted living in some of those communities to service zones, because there are many mothers who are professional. Like in Marco City, I met a teacher who's now doing graphic design, but she's home, and graphic design was an alternative skill set that she developed because she needed to stay home with her mom. Sometimes it is more expensive for you to try and go to work and find someone to stay with mom or dad than for you to be home and find an alternative income stream. And so senior assisted care communities are important because sometimes some families don't have the ability to do that, but they want their parent to be secure. I also believe that there's a need for us to build multiple units, not in the Bahamas, in Eleuthera, in Abaco, in Freeport, that assist families who have children that are differently able, who may be on the autism spectrum. And for adult children with autism, they need daycare, special needs. There needs to be facilities that can assist families to give the children a fighting chance to have a life of normalcy. So I believe when we work together, we have the capacity to do things that we think is, it's a big deal. It's not. You're telling me in 2026, the best we can do as a community is maybe build 200-300 homes here. I think we could do better.
You spoke about caregiving. That is an expense that a lot of families have to deal with, particularly as parents get older. Childcare is another expense, but in general, a lot of this falls under healthcare. We've heard that our healthcare system is the worst it's ever been in 22 years, I think was the quote. And of course, there's a lot of questions surrounding the hospital. There are a lot of questions surrounding NHI. So we're going to take a quick break here. And on the other side of the break, we're going to continue our conversation with the leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition, Mr. Michael Pintard. And we're going to talk a little bit about healthcare. You're listening to Talking Heads on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM.
Even if they ban us, they'll never slow my plans up. Already the show.
Craving something bold, fresh, and unforgettable? Tropical Gyros is your flavor-packed escape, a Carib-Greek fusion born right here in Nassau. From juicy grilled salmon, chicken, and pork gyros to loaded bowls, fresh salads, wings, and more. There's something for every craving. Find Tropical Gyros at any of their locations, JFK Plaza, Rosetta Street, Port Lucaya Freeport, or their franchise spots on Prince Charles Drive, Soldier Road West, Delaport, and Carmichael Road. Tropical Gyros, not just good food, it's an experience.
Struggling to find your financial rhythm? Make that move to Fidelity and let us help you orchestrate your financial goals into perfect harmony with free financial coaching sessions. Make that move today. Call 356-7764.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
Crunch boring lunches and enjoy real food at a real good price with KFC's value deals. For $5.95, you can get a famous bowl and drink or a one-piece chicken box. For max value, grab a value box. That's a piece of our iconic chicken, nuggets, cheesy mashed potato, a buttery biscuit, fries, a dessert biscuit, and soda, all for just $9.95. KFC value deals have got the crunch that you're looking for. KFC knows value, and it's finger-licking good.
You're listening to Talking Heads with Naughty and Mary Jane. Only on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM.
It's time for The Buzz. What are you buzzing on? Brought to you by John Shoes.
We're back at you on the Tuesday, February 17th edition of Talking Heads. Your boy Naughty along with MJ in your company right up until 6 p.m. and our very special guest, F&M leader, Mr. Michael Pintard. We're going to continue the conversation. Now, don't forget, we have the lines available for you. I'll let you know when the lines are open so you can chime in. And Mr. Pintard is more than happy to field your questions and your calls. But we will have the conversation, then we'll open up the lines. Texters, keep the texts coming. We'll get to them in short order. And now we're back to healthcare.
To healthcare, something that's on the minds of many Bahamians. We have been hearing some things recently. We've had nurses speak out. We've had the Nurses Union speak out. We've had the Consultant Physician Staff Association president, Dr. Sherelle Lockhart, recently say that the Princess Margaret Hospital is in the worst condition she has seen in her 22 years working in the public practice. We know we have a lot of problems with our healthcare system. We know that some of these problems are legacy, but some have been exacerbated by policy decisions of recent. What are your plans when it comes to healthcare in this country?
Well, one, we believe that those institutions that are working well in the private sector within the Bahamas, the government should not frown on them or see them in any way as competitors. So if you look, for example, at a doctor's hospital or a Lucayan Medical, as we're familiar with in Grand Mama, or Sunrise, where any number of our constituents, I myself, have gone there for procedures, etc., that we ought to see how we are able, as government, to work with them and to help facilitate their success. NHI, when it was envisioned as a partnership between the private sector and the public sector. And that kind of healthy discussion is what we intend to lead. We are fortunate to still have access to and consult with those persons who assisted us when we made our contribution to the development of NHI, because it has been a relay between governments to try and to first start and then expand NHI. So one of the things that we believe is necessary is you have to provide particularly universal primary care for Bahamians. We need to make sure that you don't contribute, as we are now, to an apartheid system where if you are in the private ward in the hospital, your life is fundamental, your prospects for recovery, for good care is fundamentally different than those on the public ward. So we have to construct a system that if you're on the public ward, you still have access to medication, to equipment, to adequate staff, etc. So there has to be a discussion around what is a reasonable fee that is not going to disadvantage the most vulnerable Bahamians that need to use the healthcare system. Policymakers have a problem getting involved in any form of discussion about a fee structure in the healthcare system.
Why is that? Why?
Well, because it sounds better to say we're going to provide almost universal free health care when I believe we are somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 10% of the total cost of running the healthcare system is borne by the users.
Right.
Everything else is paid for by the government. So there has to be a rational discussion around what will be the reasonable fee structure that will not disadvantage the most vulnerable, and secondly, would allow us to sustain the services, the facilities, etc., that the public wishes to use.
Right, because as a taxpayer, I look at the hospital that's free, but I've been paying taxes all my life. Maybe one time I'll head into the hospital if I need to use it, and the conditions are atrocious. That, to me, as a Bahamian taxpayer, I feel a particular way about that. I feel, terrible that it's not been maintained properly. And I also feel, kind of put off that there is a two-tier system in the hospital.
And Bahamians don't mind paying.
I don't think Bahamians
in
do.
general in the society,
right,
if they are convinced they're getting quality value and timely service.
Right.
What the fees should not be is so onerous that that persons who most need it are unable to afford it. So we support the development of NHI, and we believe that if it is going to be sustained, more doctors are going to participate. The government has to be seen as an honest broker, as an honest partner. In other words, government is going to pay its bills. Far too many doctors or service providers, because it isn't just doctors, can't get paid.
Yeah, there's been countless days on this show where NHI providers were providing us the update. Owed for April and half of May.
Yeah.
Then they owed for November and none in October. All in October, none in November. And this has been going on from last year into this year.
So when you ask about our plans, what we will do,
right,
as I mentioned a few things before, is we will engage the service providers across the spectrum so that we are able to work out exactly what are the challenges you are now experiencing with the system. What is the intervals that, in your view, is reasonable for government to be paying so that your business does not go under while you are waiting to be paid. But the bigger issue is to get in place persons who will not spend money elsewhere. Policymakers will spend money elsewhere when the most important institutions, the one that deals with life and death issues, is starved of resources. And so Ministry of Health, again, in its management, the government in its allocation of funds must make sure that in Grand Bahama, in New Providence, and across the Family Islands, we are paying our bills to everyone who is in that healthcare ecosystem. The government is paying lots of other bills. Mm-hmm. The question is, why are you shorting this most critical area? One nurse told me, or I visited at the house, you should ask them, is there Panadol in the hospital? And this was a question that was asked of me, right? So whether that was,
is there Panadol in the hospital?
I don't know, or not, but I hear rodents in the hospital.
Whether she was making the point to emphasize, or it was factual. The point is there was significant concern that on occasion when she needed it.
We've heard there are medicines that are often not available. We've heard of situations where persons have to go out and buy supplies and bring it back to the hospital for loved ones who may be in there. And
then they still don't put them to use on the loved ones.
Which is strange
the sufferation continues, and then they end up passing away.
If we are sourcing whatever it is, it could be sourcing food, it could be sourcing syringes, bandages, etc., the supplies needed in the hospital system. Where possible, the government should be going to the source in order to source these items to eliminate some of the costs associated with multiple middle men and women. If cost is being driven up, which is reducing the amount of funds that are available to invest in other areas of the hospital, then that's a problem. And so I believe we have to look. We have to talk with the experts who know more than me and a number of us, save it except for a few of the physicians who are in politics, the Dwayne Sines of this world. Talk to them, look at the studies that have been left. We have been looking at several of the studies left in place, and we wonder if this government have read them. Because if you read them, you know that you didn't necessarily need to pursue a greenfield, that is a brand new specialty hospital here in New Providence, or a brand new hospital elsewhere, because you met in place clear recommendations around how you might be able to build, in the case of Grand Bahama, a multi-story facility in Grand Bahama to, again, dramatically transform and build even new wings of the existing hospital through acquisition of additional land that it surrounds the hospital. So I'm saying the government has to go through the studies carefully. We shouldn't be addicted to legacy projects so that our name is on it, or the facilitators who is facilitating some of these arrangements, inclusive acquiring loans for government. It's not about empowering them. It's about moving as quickly and cost effectively as possible to provide facilities that will help our people. The final thing I'll say on this point for now is there's a need for us to hire more nurses and doctors. And we have to work out the formula through the national budget on how we are going to do that with a sense of urgency. I'm advised that we're spending roughly about $600 million on healthcare outside of the Bahamas. So if we're able to bring on shore, 200, 300 million of that, because let's be real.
Right.
There's a segment of the Bahamas.
Bahamians have will travel. They're going far. They go to Miami.
They're going to the U.S. They're going to Cayman. They're
New
going
York.
to Turkey. They're going to Colombia.
I heard Turkey's a hot spot.
They stay in Cuba for medical and other purposes.
Right.
And so again, we need to bring some of that money on shore. 200 million on shore. Doctors Hospital has strategically expanded. Could you imagine if you drop another 50 million on them in terms of services, how much more they will grow? That's not a bad thing.
No.
Or Lucayan Medical or Sunrise or Oak Tree. There's so many wonderful companies that I believe will work in tandem with the public service. If we subsidize some of the services, some of the people who are underserved through the hospital because of the state of it, and going to these other facilities, if we work out a formula with private enterprise that can absorb some of those customers, it's a win-win. It's a win for the private sector group. It is a win for the patient, which is the most important thing, and it's a win for the public system. So as we renew the public system, who else locally can absorb some of that? So, for example, if you provide MRI service, so MJ MRI services, and you say to the government, ordinarily this is costing you $1,100, $1,500, but if you're guaranteeing me, or you're giving me a batch of 50 of those, I'm going to give it to you at this price point. How many services, if you take volume, provide it to a private service provider, you can dramatically reduce the price.
Good negotiators. That's what we need. We need good negotiators.
All right.
Final question on this healthcare, because we see that the government is moving forward with the new specialty.
Are we talking about the Chinese dragon in the room?
They are moving forward with the specialty hospital.
I'm with you on that, MJ.
$294 million to the new hospital, and then we understand that we're getting a loan, and the jurisdiction for the loan is going to be China. And we saw a little bit of a geopolitical dance a couple of days ago because, the U.S. feels a particular way. China's our friend as well. We're moving forward with the loan. If your administration if your party is successful, you're the next administration, what do? We keep pushing forward with this loan? What do we do?
Well, what is interesting is the government's timeline on most of its projects continue to change. Airport in Grand Bahama, first phase completed 2025. We're at 2026, and they didn't even break the window as they did it in the Grand Lucayan, right?
Well, they broke it, then they fixed it back, I understand.
Well, in Grand Lucayan, they break it when they fix it back. But at the airport,
they didn't even bother.
They didn't even drop the mic.
They didn't the full show on that one.
They dropped the mic.
Wow.
So again, we cannot predict at what stage the specialty hospital is going to be.
Right.
But if I could preempt the answer by saying this, if a government, remember I said maybe 5 to 10% of the total cost of operating the hospital is maybe paid by the consumer. Maybe some argue it's less than 5%. So it means the government is carrying the remainder, which explains why we're in the state that we're in with shortages all around. If you cannot pay for an existing hospital in Nassau, the question is, how will you pay for the refurbishment of the hospital you presently have and the hospital you propose to build? Because clearly 95% plus of the expenses associated with the new hospital will be the government, or by extension, the people of the Bahamas' responsibility. If you are unable to pay for the upgrade of the RAN, and now let's add all the clinics around town, throughout the Bahamas, how will you then pay for the new hospital in Grand Bahama plus that? So I'm just saying, logically, it doesn't make sense. So their attempt to gaslight us by saying, oh man, you all just don't want to see nothing new, man. You always oppose. This is not about opposing, it's about being practical. And we are thinking people. So we have a right to ask the question, show us the business proposition on how you're going to do that alone, but that plus the one you presently have. And the government has not answered that. They've come to the House of Assembly to borrow money without giving the business plan in advance. We haven't seen the business plan. Can you go to a bank and say, listen, I'm gonna build a house. I need to get this money because it is valuable. It is where I want my boo to be here, and I want my children, and etc. As emotional and wonderful as that sound, they're going to ask, how are you going to repay this loan? How are you going to fund it? And the government has failed to provide the Bahamian people a business case. They keep borrowing money without providing us with a plan on how, one, how they're going to fully use it, and then two, how they're going to repay it. So,
and this is frustrating for Bahamians. You know, a lot of things are happening. We're not getting information. You know, we got FOIA, but it was never fully implemented. We have so many questions, and a lot of it revolves around information. What would a Pintard-led government look like in terms of accountability, transparency, being open with the Bahamian people?
MJ Naughty, we should have a candid and frank conversation with the Bahamian people. Maybe I should rephrase that. We should have a candid and a Michael conversation with the Bahamian people. You know, in other words, we have some opportunities that we could seize as a country, and we have some real challenges. Not all the challenges are created by the government, or not all the challenges are for the government to solve. This administration has chosen to do something different. What they are saying is, things were bad. The country was falling off the cliff. We came to the rescue. Super Philip flew in with Robin Cooper. And what we did is we pulled the country from over the edge of the cliff. The country is now booming. Why are you complaining? You mean because you don't have food today? Don't worry about that. We booming, and trust me, it'll fool you one of these days. And they're now trying to convince us that everything is going well, and you're gonna feel it at some point. It is not an honest narrative. Country falling off the edge of the cliff, we pull it from the cliff, we're gonna end up with a surplus at the end of the year. We should be real. We have some real challenges in the country. We are a middle income country that grew faster than many of our neighbors, but we have stagnated to some extent, meaning we have hit almost a ceiling for many years, where the economy is growing at somewhere around 2, maybe 2.8%, and only on rare occasions have we gone beyond that. Contrary to what Davis said, it grew faster under Ingram than it grew under Davis. The rapid growth that we experienced since Davis has been a result of the economy having been closed due to COVID, was reopening under us, but was flung open by the Davis administration. So you had pent-up demand for tourists to travel. So in 2021, before all of the Davis plans could kick in, we were at 14% recovering. And then it dropped to 12 to 10. And now it's projected under Davis to go back to 1.7 next year. So a part of what a Pintard administration will do is have an honest conversation so people can at least understand how your economy works. It means that we have to grow the economy. How do we grow? How do we grow the economy? We introduce new sectors. Look at the economy like a table. Put some additional legs under the table. Each of those legs are different areas that you could generate money from. So, Naughty, you are creative.
Yes, sir.
Rick Fox is a creative. Pia Glover-Roll is a creative. So one of the legs under the table to grow the economy is the orange economy. sports,
Right.
film, theater, dance, Junkanoo, new media, like what we're doing right now.
Right.
All of this are economic opportunities. Bahamians are working in talk radio. When I was on talk radio, I did $50,000 a year when I was at Jams. I made 50 G's a year. So I was in Grand Bahama working at Hutchison Whampoa, making 80, I was making 50 as a talk show host. So there are some people who have the ability, because of how skillful they are, to generate revenue. The barrier to enter this business is lower than most other businesses. So we have hundreds, possibly thousands of Bahamians really, who are potential six-figure earners just in the orange economy. And that leg under the table has not been fully extended and used. And in fact, the Prime Minister has been so clueless on this point that he attacks me as a creative, though I was putting on a play that in 6 months I made $500,000 of the election series. Each of those productions I generated $500,000 along with David Wallace and Will Smith.
So there is a
Patrice.
lot of opportunity in the
That's
large
one.
economy. Right.
Again, then there is new technology. There are many Bahamians on YouTube, TikTok, who on their using their phones, their iPad,
and so talented and creative. Like, I love to watch stuff that, Bahamians make. It's so good,
Let's get to
It's
this
so
call
good.
because we got to get to the break. Obviously, we'll be going to the 5 o'clock, but let's get this call out
And
today. Talking
Texas, we
Heads.
see you as well.
Talking Heads.
Naughty MJ and
Hey,
my
Jeff.
good friend Michael.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Everything's well. Love the conversation. Let me just say this. I have now coined a phrase that the Bahamas is a first world country with third world thinkers. That's why we are not going anywhere fast. And here's the kicker. You talk about the specialty hospital, and the hospital is what they're proposing is only for women and children. But what about the men? Why are the men left out of this equation when we have our own male issues also to deal with? And also, how about adding a state-of-the-art lab where we could also study chronic diseases and diseases by the other airborne and foodborne stuff that we have to contend with. My last point here, which adds on to the conversation you're talking about now, is we are trying to understand where the accountability and transparency for all of the money that is being borrowed in this country. Where is all of this money? Right now, we talk about the expansion of the airports, and yes, I applaud the current administration for wanting to upgrade the airports. We got one or two questionable airports that is international, supposed to be deemed international in locations, where to us today still doesn't make any sense because we know you have to pour more money into those airports, but you got to make it make sense. Where is the logistics to convince the Bahamian people that this investment that you're doing on our behalf with our dollars is at the end of the day going to yield the type of money and bonuses that we're looking for? So these are some of the things the Bahamian people are talking about. I'm pretty sure that this current administration is hearing the conversation, but all we get right now is nothing but a whole bunch of crickets. We want the answers of how our money is going to be spent, how it's being spent, because at the end of the day, if we, the people today, don't pay it, our children are going to bear those costs for another generation or two to come.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Children and grandchildren, because a
Good to
lot
hear
is
you, Jeff.
being borrowed, for sure.
Well, we got lots to talk about. We got to get to the break. Top of the 5 o'clock hour, we'll get the news in. Right after the news, we'll continue our conversation. We still have to talk immigration. Still have to talk tourism. Still have to talk crime. And we still have to get Mr. Pinto's take on what we witnessed last night with that big... I thought I was stuck in 2021. I thought I ended up in a time machine.
You should throw in agriculture as well.
Agriculture, we throw that too because...
Throw in fisheries.
Well, I got to ask you now, too, about the legalization and decriminalization of marijuana, seeing how DeAndre Ayton was just arrested at the airport
Was he?
for having a small amount of marijuana in his travel bag.
But we can talk about that, but you do know that that's not the only plant, right?
We're going to
You're
grow.
aware of that.
We're gonna
Okay.
put-
I just
we're gonna put food.
I know it's an important one, but
Many plants.
We're also going to learn how, talk about how we could grow more of our food, so we put more of our own food on the Bahamian tables.
$1 billion food bill.
important.
$1 billion with a B.
All right, you guys are listening to Talking Heads on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM with our very special guest, the leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition, Mr. Michael Pintard. We're going to take a quick break here for the news, but we'll be right back.
Trust, so even if they ban us, they'll never slow my plans up. The show goes on all night till the morning we dream. So anybody ever wonder when they will see the thunder? Just remember when you come up. The show goes on all right. Already the show goes on all night till the morning we dream.
John Shoes and Accessories is your one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. You will find what you're looking for among the growing collection of classic and trendy styles with new arrivals every week. John's covers the whole family and has great prices, helpful and friendly customer service. Your experience shopping with us will be time well spent. Shop with us online at www.johnshoes.com. John's also now carries small home appliances. So come on into John's, located on Rosetta Street in Palmdale and Carmichael Road West. John's, we put fashion at your feet.
Forget them flower, forget them check. You know it's Tommy, get the respect. AP is hot, we sitting close. Breeze on your lip, that's how I know. You is my person, that ain't no secret. You sharing, I might keep it. Love buckets.
8 tasty pieces of chicken, thighs and legs for just $20. Add a large side for $5. This February, love deserves a bucket. KFC, it's finger licking good.
You're listening to Talking Heads with Naughty and Mary Jane. Only on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM.
Even if they ban us, they'll never slow my plans up. Already the show goes on all night till the morning we dream. So anybody ever wonder when they will see the thunder? Just remember when you come up. Show goes on all right.
Talking Heads with Naughty and MJ is brought to you by Burger King, Easy Car Sales, Fine Threads, Sean's Department Store, KFC, Naughty Johnny's, Masters, and Tropical Gyros.
1 in the air for the people ain't here. 2 in the air for the father that's there. 3 in the air for the kids in the ghetto. 4 for the kids that don't want to be there. None for the trying to hold them back. 5 in the air for the teacher not scared to tell those kids that's living in the ghetto.
We're back at you on the Tuesday, February 17th edition of Talking Heads. Your boy Naughty, along with MJ and your company, right up until 6 p.m. And we continue the conversation with our special guest, leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition and F&M leader, Mr. Michael Pintard. We're into the 5 o'clock hour. 5:06 p.m. is the time. Text us. Let me get to you all. And because I know you all are Musa. Here we go. Good day, Naughty and MJ and Mr. Pintard. Mr. Pintard, the person you're going to ratify, and Michael is a very smart person. I wonder why you're saving that person for last. I agree with that selection, though, Mr. Pintard. The PLP always talking about the old F&M. You are the new F&M, and we support you.
On that particular point, the reason he is being ratified so late is he's wanted to be ratified much earlier. He's on vacation, having accumulated a tremendous amount of vacation time. As far as we know, the law says you cannot be nominated officially, but you could be ratified within your party. Even while you are serving in the capacity that he is serving.
This is a public servant?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so again, that's our understanding. But let us put it this way. We know persons who have been in similar positions on the PLP side who have been able to not only ratify but nominate. And so there is a fear, because they've done it to some other people, a very prominent public servant who represented public servants, that they have challenges getting their pension.
Wow.
And so out of the abundance of caution, he's gotten advice that he has to wait until that last day, which will be early March. And so other than that, we would have ratified him a long time ago. But unfortunately, because of the pettiness of their politics, we're having the problem that we're having.
Mr. Pintard, I would like to see you and Mr. Davis go up with a debate before the election.
I would love that.
Brother, you answered the question for the next time.
Very quickly.
I would love that, because again, he talks about the wealth of experience that he has and exposure and what he has built. And so we get a chance to test it. I always find that people who lead an argument by trying to cite their qualifications are often not confident in the quality of their ideas and their arguments. And so they want to beat you over the head with what they call a degree. But just in case it is the degree, I think I have a couple of those too. I have a couple of those university degrees as well. And in fact, I traveled around the world. And I mean, I went to school in Canada. I went to school in the U.S. I think I've had international exposure before I became a cabinet minister to travel on the government's dime. Right? As a young Bahamian, I represented 52 Commonwealth countries as the youth spokesperson for the 52 Commonwealth countries, duly elected first in the North American Caribbean region, then elected globally, and served for at least 3 years with the Commonwealth Youth Program. So I've been exposed. I've run businesses that have had multiple employees, more so than the law firm that he's talking about, and he benefited in the shadow of two iconic politicians, lawyers, and built the practice along with them, and of course also on their backs. So don't attempt to belittle other people so that we get into a qualification argument, because that's not really the argument. The argument is, can you improve the lot of Bahamian people, and do you have a heart to do the same?
Good afternoon, Naughty and MJ. Ginger said the PLP brought in $3.5 billion of investment into Freeport. Can you ask Mr. Pinthart if that investment in Freeport is true? Because I live in Freeport, and the PLP hasn't brought nothing to Freeport. They met those investments on the board.
Sorry, did you say billion or minions? What was it?
Billion.
Not minions, not the Disney, Disney thing.
No,
billions.
no.
Oh, billions. Okay. So
not them little yellow balls running around.
Okay. I was just checking.
On that point, though, we did hear the Minister for Grand Bahama say.
I think Mr. Mitchell brought the millions.
Say last night.
That's more up his alley.
At the campaign launch, that Grand Bahama's been revived, and I got to tell you, as a Grand Bahamian, I was shocked at that framing of what is happening in Grand Bahama, because that is not what it actually feels like on the ground.
You mean the DPM?
Yeah. No. The Minister of Grand Bahama, Ms. Moxie, she said that they revived.
Because that's one of the statements the deputy had made, where he says Grand Bahama was booming.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have said that.
I was very surprised because,
it's surprising.
Again, I was pulling in the PLP, the competition that's going on between the leader and the deputy. I was pulling for him because I was pulling for a generational change. I thought we should have a generational change on both sides.
Right.
FNM and PLP, we successfully executed ours. His own is stalling at the moment. And then now that you have other people who
might be a little in peril, but yes. So
in peril.
You have the point.
In peril. So if I was a betting man, I was going to say that
you'd bet on the betting man. Bet on the betting man. Yeah, right. we get it.
So I again. You asked a question earlier about what would we do.
Yeah.
Like I said, one of the things we would do is a sober conversation with our people so that we are not being dishonest about what our challenges are, because then you could prepare your people, challenge and inspire your people, put in place the right systems for us to meet those challenges. But when you're telling people, man, listen, things are good, but you're unable to pay public servants sometimes. Things are good, but
do we know why that's happening? That has been a complaint of many persons that have called this show. Many people have talked about how slow the government is to pay people. What's happening?
The government has a cash problem. That's essentially it. The government has a cash problem, and the question then becomes, if you've earned, let's say, $3 billion a year over the last 4 years, $12 billion, how have you managed those funds? And so I won't pretend as if there haven't been multiple governments engaged in deficit spending, meaning that you are spending more than you're earning, hence you have to go out and borrow some, right? It isn't as if the FNM has not gone through that. But this government is dishonest about that because they are lying about you going to have a surplus at the end of the year when they have a cash problem. I've said before, the PLP is flush with money, and I can tell you why, but the government is not. The government is not. So and one of the reasons we have a cash problem, this is not a government that's overseeing contracts to ensure that we are getting complete value for money. Right. I have contended, and they can take issue with it, but I believe that we have to be careful not to permit padding of contracts and wastage.
Yeah.
When you do not have competitive bidding, it is difficult for you to tell if you're getting the best price or the best product or the best service. And this government has a record amount of contracts that are direct awards. No one has competed. North of $500 million.
That's a lot.
And if you add in BPL, then I would say north of $1 billion.
And then to tell the country, after all of this, that you can see the spending and where it's going, that we have a surplus. And to get to this point where we have people not being paid, to use a word that my wife don't like, I think it's stupid on his behalf. And I think it's stupid to go out there and say, yeah, I went there, because I didn't like how he went there.
I
was
agree.
stupid.
You shouldn't use that word. I tried to say that to the Prime Minister in the House of Assembly.
That's why I used it.
He didn't listen to me. I tried to give him.
And then for him not to retract it, I thought it was stupid too, because he had an opportunity to do that.
Use that word. I hate that word.
And so I tried to caution him. But I mean, I'm now trying to be even more respectful to the elder statesman. As I mention to people often, the Prime Minister is from Old Bight, my homeboy from Old Bight Island, and I'm from New Bight.
Right.
So I'll be the old and in with the new. That's how I go.
A lot of irony.
I'll be the old and with the new.
Well, praise the Lord. And so,
hallelujah.
But what would we do? One of the things we'll do is we will shave more than $400 million off the food bill. Before we were kicked out of office, one of the things we did is we worked with the Food and Agriculture Organization, with a consultant from who previously worked with the IDB. We conducted studies on the various agriculture products that are consumed in the Bahamas. We isolated 77 of those items that we could produce competitively with the rest of the world. So just to make it plain, if you try to grow rice in the likelihood of you being competitive around the world is next to nothing.
Right.
Zilch. But if you're doing salad crops, if you're doing microgreens, if you're doing sweet potatoes, you can compete in terms of producing that to supply the local market and to provide the millions of tourists who come here.
This is one of the things we will do. This is one of your areas of expertise, isn't it?
I did an associate's degree in agriculture, bachelor's in plant and soil science, and agricultural economics at McGill. So,
McGill.
Yeah.
You went to McGill?
Yes, I did.
Well, let me tell you,
unfortunately, I didn't get the master's degree, but I was at the program.
But you know that big hill at McGill coming down by PL Pub at the bottom?
Yes.
Long story short,
you don't tell the story.
Went to visit some of my homeboys who went to McGill because I did spring break dyslexically. I like to be cold instead of warm. Talking and walking backwards, I slid completely down that hill. I burnt my bungie completely off.
So no more trips to Canada.
That's a lot of information, bro.
But that hill at McGill, boy.
MJ, that's
too much information.
The hill at McGill.
But the point is, you have an expertise in this area. This is one of your areas of expertise, and it's something that the country needs. We import a lot of food, right?
And this government has not made any dent. So when they talk about progress, I'm asking them, can you tell me any product in the Bahamas since you've been in government, and you were talking about just results, that you have reduced the imports by 10% of any product? No, sorry, 5%.
And
sorry.
None?
4%?
Nothing.
3?
Nothing.
And here's what amazes me.
Any product.
and
not even eggs, especially eggs. More eggs in this room than they produce.
You're the golden joke. Anyway, Mr. Pinto, let me ask you this question based on your expertise in agriculture. It's been a long-known fact that the average age of the farmer here in the Bahamas is between 65 and 70. I feel that we have a ton of young people coming out every year, 5,000 to graduate. We have others that go off to UB and other universities. I think that agriculture and I think farming could become a potential major industry and gold mine for young Bahamians, meaning they can do co-ops or they can do it individually. But Joe Blow, I can grow sweet potatoes. Susie Q, I can grow carrots. John can grow mangoes. But all of these things are readily necessary for Bahamian consumption, as well as, like you mentioned, for tourist consumption.
Of course.
So you can get contracts with the hotel to provide specialty items. Cabbage and
you're
grain.
on point.
So why haven't we done that?
So Naughty, like I said, one of the things we did is we conducted the studies. The studies are at the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources that have identified the 77 crops that we have the ability to produce cost effectively. People just want to know, is it the right quality? There's never been quality discussion about Bahamian products. We're solid. No. Is the price competitive? Can you provide it consistently and in the quantities being demanded? That's the issue. And so they ought to have been able to build on that. Another study we left in place, and that is the Food and Agriculture Organization assisted us with a consultant that came out of Europe. The consultant was a poultry specialist. And the study that was conducted was to help us develop a poultry industry that in 2.5 years, we could be self-sufficient in not only eggs, self-sufficient in meat, and self-sufficient in turkey as well. And again, this is why I am stunned that the Golden Yoke program has not worked despite some $23 million having been spent thus far on God knows what.
And where's the money gone? Because feeders on the ground, we don't have any eggs. We got to pick that up. Let's get these callers out the way, and then we can jump back and wrap up with agriculture. Then we need to talk immigration. That's coming up next, folks. For those of you interested in immigration, the hot topic of immigration is up next on deck. Let's go to the phone lines. Talking Heads.
Naughty.
Good afternoon. Make it quick for me, bro. What you got for me?
Everything cool. I only hold that long because I think it's important.
Papa, what you got?
Happy New Year to the...
Hey, Happy New Year, my brother.
To you too. To everybody and to the incoming Prime Minister also. I would like to believe that, at least I should start off by saying I hear a lot of PLP saying they could support Michael Pintard. They say they ain't forget him in Freeport. He was helping with Doreen and stuff like that. So I could expect that when he become Prime Minister that he's going to not just look out for F&Ms, but look out for PLPs, known PLPs, people who might have never even supported the Free National Movement, because he'll be there to be different, to look out for everyone. I think you'll have the opportunity, Mr. Pintard, to be one of the better prime ministers, the best prime minister. From the experience we had over the years, you have a chance now to be the best prime minister as long as the people select you in the next general election. I wanted to find out from you, should we expect when, not if, but when you become prime minister, to get more information, to work with the media, to bring information to us with this indictment case what's going on? Because, it's like we feel like the government ain't doing enough about it. And the thing with the hospital, I know they say the F&M like to cancel and review and all that stuff, but could we expect to get a better deal when you become prime minister, either to slow that down and maybe sit down with the Americans and see if we could get a better deal rather than 50% Bahamian working on the site or having to pay the interest? And maybe we could fix Princess Margaret Hospital and do something with Rand Memorial and Freeport. Mr. Pintard, I don't know if you have a pen there, but one last thing, and I wish you get a chance to answer. I know that it's ramble long. But this gentleman, Mr. Mike Humes in Cat Island, he sound like a decent person. It sound like the people in Cat Island consider him one of their own. And tell us why the people should vote for him rather than voting for Brave Davis, who they had there for all of these years. Then, because I listened to some of the TikToks and on social media, it sounded like he really, really pushing. He get a big opportunity to outseat. Because don't forget now, Perry Christie, Lucy C. And Chief, who is this? See, I can't pronounce a word.
It's Mr. Watt. Okay, that's a lot, Papa. Thank you so much, Papa.
But Papa, I will tell you this before Mr. Pintard responds. As a long-time PLP myself, having voted 7 times for the PLP, I can let you know I've heard PLPs tell me the same thing, that they're going to support Mr. Pintard this go-around as well.
Go ahead, Mr. Pintard.
With respect to Cat Island, Rum Cay, and San Salvador, the Prime Minister has represented that constituency for 30 years. And those of you who listen to the House, I ask him in the House, how is it that you have no footprint in Cat Island, Rum Cay, and San Salvador after 30 years? And let me be clear, for people... there was a former candidate who ran against Mr. Davis and said, he's done nothing. I said, please, your campaign approach is wrong. Don't say he's done nothing, because he has assisted a number of people from Cat Island, many, individual patronage. A child is going to take a trip. A basketball team is going to travel. Persons need a few pieces of lumber to be put on the plane. On the boat. Again, he's helped. But what he has not done is created the infrastructure. He hasn't created helping to create an economy where people could thrive. So for 30 years, you could not go and find a solid park, a solid building. So he has failed over 30 years. Michael Holmes, I believe, would produce far more than the Prime Minister in terms of direct assistance. East Grand Bahama has 6,200 plus voters. Cat Island and Rum Cay, in terms of voters, less than 1,700.
Less than 17, okay.
And so the Prime Minister is now allocating, we are understanding, somewhere in the vicinity of $200 million to do various projects, whether for road works, whether it's a clinic, et cetera, et cetera. So the question, let's be conservative and say $150 million. How does one explain, in the absence of all of this work over 30 years, How do you justify in East Grand Bahama, you may be able to find allocations over these last 4 years of maybe 3, 4, 5 million. I doubt it's that. Marco City is the second largest constituency. You can't find $1 million that he's allocated there.
Wow.
But 200 million or 150 million in Cat Island, Ron Keys in Salvador.
That math don't matter. Let's go to the phone lines. Talking Heads. Talking Heads. Hey, what's happening? Make it quick for me. What you got, bro?
But I can make it quick. I hear everyone talking, but no one talking about how they can deal with these traffic, these cars on the road, buddy. Every worry, but they made me worry, but this and that. But man, it takes too long to get ready to go. No one's talking about how they can improve these roads. No one talking about how they can make use of the road traffic police, man. I mean, we have one police on the road who's be right by Malupanda directing traffic. Come on, man.
All right, thank you very much,
Caller,
caller.
got your point.
Mr. Pintard
let's get the other call then.
Okay.
Talking Heads.
All right.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's happening? What you got? Make it quick for me, please.
Yeah. It's one thing I am concerned about, right? In terms of agriculture, right?
Okay.
We have a whole open market in terms of us providing non-GMO stuff.
Okay.
I mean, if we could just go in that direction.
All right, good stuff. We'll let Mr. Pintard get to that question. Let's get the next call in. Talking Heads.
About that, yeah.
Talking Heads.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Make it quick for us. What you got for Mr. Pintard?
Yes, a genuine concern on both sides of the aisle is there's been allegations that the sitting leader of the opposition has mental issues. So what happens in a situation where he's placed in power, but he's not self-regulating?
Ma'am, that's pejorative.
Daddy pejorative. Sounds like you have mental issues calling a talk show with that. Could be a COI. That explains it.
You should do better than that.
Sound like a COI, too, to be putting out videos. In fact, sound like the COI who run in against you in Marco City.
You get time to ask questions of the leader of the opposition, your potential future prime minister, and you waste our time with that.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Go ahead.
I was told a story. There was a pastor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the pastor was being attacked by somebody. Lots of verbal abuse, etc. Good man of God. And, he tried that to say to the church, listen, it's important that you deal with these kinds of insults properly. And he says, no, they cursed me, the bad words. And I never lost my cool. The only thing I said to them, same's to you.
No, but see, but obviously, me, when I have my comedian hat on, right? I'm starting to think I'm starting to think. This is what I think of, though, too, though. You got to take time out of your busy schedule to regurgitate something that you got to have mental issues.
Listen to me. I bill for this.
Let me ask you.
So whatever they come for, I work for y'all. I work for even the abuser. I work for you, so no problem.
Let's go to the other calls real quick.
Phone lines.
Talking Heads.
Naughty, MJ, Michael Bendot, how y'all doing?
What's going on, man?
Excellent.
Yeah, going quick. I want to go back to construction.
Yes.
Debbie Deal and Leonard Sands, they have signed a petition for the licensed contractors. Because you see this elderly gentleman calling, he gets swing. I know a lady right now doing some Airbnb in Lucha. She on a second contractor now, the first contractor in court now.
Oh, boy.
Then if you become prime minister, would you, I can hang up and I can listen to the answer.
Right.
What's your take on that, on making contractors them being licensed so you wouldn't, all the swinging wouldn't be going on?
I fully support it.
And then the part two to the next question is, a load of fill right now is like $460. You say you're going to build 5,000 homes. That'll take plenty fill. The contractors them what is build that houses for the government. They say the money what they getting is so small, they ain't gonna pay that. They don't want to pay even $200 for a load of fill. I fill in a foundation right now in Rules Terrace off Steph Street, right up the road from your apartment. The gentleman ordered 8 loads. Now he had to order 4 more, other than 12. If you become prime minister, what you plan to do on the cost of fill? Because for new home owners, and plus people is be saying, my apartment is $1,200 and $1,000. If you pay $460 for one load, 20 yards of fill, what do you expect? And I ain't building materials here, I ain't labor, I ain't what.
All right, Muff.
Apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, gotta be $1,200 to $1,000.
Thank you.
All right, Muff,
so much.
good stuff. We got you. We'll let Mr. Pintard answer. Let's get this other call in. Talking Heads, make it quick, please.
Yeah, I'm back about that, man.
No, ma'am, you're not.
No,
back.
you're not back.
All right, so
No, you're mental. The audacity. No.
You thought
Allow me.
you ain't back.
The fact that you had the audacity to call back shows me that you are deluded.
Yeah.
You are bat-ish crazy, man.
No, Salula, but let's get through.
That's what you call a blind sycophant supporter, boy.
Let's
I
get
swear to
through
God.
a couple of days because we heard about Phil, the contractor regulation in the construction industry, and then also traffic. So
right. So I do support again certification for contractors. The one point I would also make is one of the discussions we engage in before is that you ought to grandfather persons in as well, meaning that there are persons who are proven builders
Work
over
for
30,
years.
40
Yeah.
years, impeccable record, great testimonials, etc. They should not be excluded. And so there's a grandfathering system in every jurisdiction.
Well,
in terms of
I'm gonna use this now to do a little segue. Let's talk about construction real quick. Yesterday I got a call from a Bahamian contractor who bragged that he employs 30 Haitians to 3 Bahamians. So now I want to know, how are we going to rectify that as far as the construction industry goes? Because in his own, madness, he defeated his cause because he said Haitian laborers are the same as Bahamian laborers on the construction site. So if that is the case, then you don't need to hire foreign nationals.
Pay-wise?
Pay the Bahamians.
Pay-wise?
Pay Bahamians what they're worth. And then it pivots from the construction element to the grandiose immigration element, where Bahamians far and wide from the length and breadth of this country feel allegedly that their voting process and their electoral process is going to be stolen from under their nose by foreign nationals with an agenda for this administration.
Right. So let me just finish first the questions raised on traffic.
Right.
I support a unified bus system. We've had many discussions on that. I believe that there are some very bright people over the years that have been engaged in this, and some have given up the fight. But I believe that they need to renew the collective discussion around the unified bus system.
You know how crazy this is. When we were in Vegas?
Vegas
in 2004. So we didn't want to drive while we were there. We just wanted to, we just took public transport because it's on time, it's reliable, and it's easy. And to think that 22 years later in our own country, the bus service isn't as reliable as it should be. I mean, we're really far behind.
Yep. And I see that. I mean, the solution to traffic is a very complex one.
Right.
And I think it would be wonderful if you all would put together a panel. We have urban planners that are in the Bahamas, persons who have been, like Brother Chisholm, who I went to school with.
It's a family disclaimer. That's my
good.
brother-in-law.
You gone to school with my brother-in-law?
You talking about Javon?
Yeah, I went high school. I went to S.C. McPherson, William Phipps Primary, S.C. McPherson Jr., AFRD Tigers Senior, and then, of course, to the College of the Bahamas. So, again, there are many recommendations that can work. Policymakers, we should be responsive to evidence, making evidence-based decisions. And so, add to the studies that have been done on traffic in the Bahamas.
Right.
Add to that flexi time, which makes sense for the public service. We ought to remove the rigidity in terms of how rigid we have the public service organized. I believe that we have to upgrade general order. So one of the things we'll do, because PIA would not get around to doing it by the time they are voted out, is to make sure that we renew general order, so update it. And one of the things we should look at flexi time. Think about this for a moment. The ministries that are most required to reach young people at the times of the day that they get in problems are pretty much all closed.
Yeah.
So from the time we did the youth report way back with Bishop Gomez, we were told what are the times that young people need the most social intervention to have them positively engaged. By that time, most ministries are closed.
This afternoon.
So the police is open and the hospital is open. So flexi time, it suggests to me that those hours from 3 o'clock to midnight, the ministries where you have experts, Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, Ministry of Social Services, Ministry of Education. There are things you are able to do to engage our young people in productive pursuits, like the ones the Prime Minister think is a pejorative, like the creative arts, like sports, etc. Having community centers that are available across the community, etc. All of those should be made available. So flexi time, that also contributes to reducing traffic, because everybody don't have to be on the road the same time trying to get a government ministry, getting to work. Then in terms of construction, like I said, I support certification, but I also do not support, and I won't be clear on this, I do not support what we are doing now throughout this country. We are cutting down the vast majority of the elevations that we have in the Bahamas. Think about this for a moment. We are talking about building back strong so that we are resilient as a country. We are building on elevation to avoid flooding. Think about it. But every island you go to, people are cutting down the hill. Some are blasting the hill, which is creating unintended consequences for workers on some of these properties. Some persons are cutting the hill right to the edge of somebody's backyard. I asked my wife the other day, I said, do I have a reasonable expectation when I buy a piece of property that my neighbor will not have the right, even though they have a right to the enjoyment of their investment, to cut their hill, their property down so that my back fence is only separated by the cliff by an inch? So if we're serious about changing subdivision and planning or town planning act and making sure that we are building in the appropriate locations, should we not have a restriction on the cutting down of all the elevation throughout the country in an already low-lying country where the government already knows that if the sea level rises by 1 or 2 degrees, we run the risk of losing a portion of our foreshore. So these are the kinds of things we will apply our mind to and make adjustments in regulation.
All right, we're going to get to the break real quick. Flip side of the break, we'll be back with our special guest, F&M leader, Mr. Michael Pinto.
We'll be talking a little bit more about immigration and tourism.
All right, so keep it right where you got it. The Tuesdays, February 17th edition of Talking Heads continues right after this.
If you are my homeboy, you never have to pay me. Go and put your hands up. In times it's how you stand up. LUP the man, cause a brand that the fans trust. So even if they ban us, they'll never slow my plans up. I'm ready, the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long.
The fried chicken experts are back with a brand new way to enjoy your favorite sandwich. Introducing the Wrap Star. Crunch into the Wrap Star, full of flavor and wrapped in a warm grilled tortilla for that perfect crunchy bite. A classic made modern that's crunchy, melty, and grilled to perfection for all the journeys of your day. KFC, it's finger licking good.
Refined style with elegant taste, then fine threads is your place. If you want those slacks hemmed or just taking the waist, then fine threads is your place. If you wanna look suave and debonair everywhere you go, like you're supposed to be in a video, wanna step out and look great, then fine threads is your place. Refined style with elegant taste, then fine threads is your place, is your place. Is your place.
You try to rest, roll with the best. For all your printing needs, there ain't no one better, no. For posters and banners, magazines and flyers, for window decals, greeting cards and newsletters. No job too big and there's no job too small. You name it, we can print it. Just give us a call. Let Print Masters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
Craving something bold, fresh, and unforgettable? Tropical Gyros is your flavor-packed escape. A Carib Greek fusion born right here in Nassau. From juicy grilled salmon, chicken, and pork gyros to loaded bowls, fresh salads, wings, and more. There's something for every craving. Find Tropical Gyros at any of their locations, JFK Plaza, Rosetta Street, Port Lucaya Freeport, or their franchise spots on Prince Charles Drive, Soldier Road West, Delaport, and Carmichael Road. Tropical Gyros, not just good food, it's an experience.
You're listening to Talking Heads with Naughty and Mary Jane. Only on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM.
Kane is in the building.
Already the show goes on all night till the morning. We dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun up? Just remember when you come up. The show goes on. Already the show goes on all night till the morning. We dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun up? Just remember when you come up. The show goes on. Have you ever had the feeling that you was being had? Don't that make you mad? They treat you like a slave, put chains all on your soul and put whips up on your back. They be lying through their teeth, hope you slip up off your path. I don't switch up, I just laugh, put my kicks up on they desk, unaffected by they threats. Then get busy on they. See, that's how that Chateau made me. That's how my daddy raised me. That glittering may not be gold, don't let nobody play me. If you are my homeboy, you never.
We're back at you on the Tuesday, February 17th edition of Talking Heads. Your boy Naughty along with MJ and your company right up until 6 p.m. Continuing the conversation with our special guest, F&M leader, Mr. Michael Pintard. And obviously, the question that I do want to address real quick, and I know MJ as one in regards to tourism. Please, I think the biggest thing that I mentioned earlier, the biggest phobia and fear the Bahamians have is that their voting process, their natural right as Bahamians to vote, is potentially going to be corrupted, allegedly, by an en masse voting bloc of foreign nationals, specifically from Haiti, that have had Bahamian documentation that allows them to vote. Bahamians are alarmed at this, and so much so now that you see videos circulating around with Haitian Bahamians being very flippant, for lack of a better word, about the whole process. And I think it's creating hysteria amongst Bahamians that is only going to grow. And I think we should know going into the polls that our God-given right to vote will not be corrupted, allegedly, by potential foreign entities who have been given documentation, to serve an agenda for this administration.
Right. So, Naughty, could I make a recommendation, you and MJ? Can we do a show exclusively?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Exclusively on immigration. So I make the commitment to come back and we'll do that. So let me just quickly answer just a couple of the items. But this requires a show.
You got a whole show for it whenever you're ready.
But let me just tell you why I want to say that up front is because this is a difficult subject to have a rational conversation in the Bahamas on at the moment, because the level of anger and outrage is so intense that it's very difficult to have a rational conversation, because there are tremendous extremes. And I think it requires a sober conversation, because on one hand, we have to protect sovereignty. On the other hand, our attempt to protect sovereignty should not prevent us from welcoming persons from elsewhere on our terms who come in to make a contribution to our development.
Right.
And I'm saying that the anger sometimes is so high that people don't want to hear that somebody can come in at a blue-collar or white-collar level and join the workforce and make a contribution, because they are so angry by persons who have come the wrong way, and Bahamians have been displaced either at the white or the blue-collar level.
Yeah.
Okay?
And because the conversation, it's simple, but it's also kind of complex.
Very complex.
Conversation. And a lot of persons out there, when you look at a party like the Coalition of Independence, right? One of their central themes is immigration. There are some Bahamians that have a lot of anxiety around it. So I think your idea about us having a conversation just on immigration,
correct,
where everyone can call in and engage you on this topic, I think that's a great idea.
Right. And so
I'm just waiting for the date, and we'll make sure that date happens relatively soon. So maybe next week, keep a day open.
So one of the things I would say is that we have made it clear. If you are coming to the Bahamas now and you're coming in illegally, there is no pathway to citizenship.
Right.
And we want to make that clear. You come in the right way, you follow the process, and you get status, whether it's a work permit, whether it's a permanent residency, whether it's naturalization, then you are embraced and we ought to do away with the xenophobia and the racism, etc., when people come in the right way and they are functioning in whatever that designation is, work permit, permanent residency, or citizenship. But we must make it clear, if you come in the wrong way, there's no pathway for you to correct that. That's one. The second thing is, I've said, what makes the FNM ideal in this situation to help us navigate this complex situation? We are not those on the far right who wants us to believe that every problem in the country has been created by
immigration,
by migrants, right? We're not them. And we are not the PLP on the left, who we believe primarily, and I'm not saying no good thing has been done under the PLP in terms of the immigration system, but what I am saying is that it appears with all of the immigration brokers that are there's an explosion.
Why do we need immigration brokers?
In every country, there are persons who help others navigate the legal system in order to help people with work permits, help people with
Sure.
So with permanent residency, citizenship, etc. However, there's a perversion of it by many actors, right? And so in our view, the PLP has often used immigration, both in their rhetoric and in their practice, either the things they do or the things they fail to do, like enforce the law, for either personal benefit, and I can think of several persons, or they have done so for political reasons, to gain favor with a community, as if they are members of that community who do not realize that, listen, my father or grandfather or mother has been waiting 20, 30 years to have their matter appropriately addressed. Homeboy from around the corner just arrived last year.
Right.
And has gotten sorted out because he is connected to a particular person and the price was right. And so again, what we need in fixing the system, which the FNM will do, is one, to remove bad actors, and two, fix the system. Bad actors includes immigration consultants that are hired by the government. I can think of one this administration had hired, placed in the Ministry of Immigration, and as a consultant, and again, who we know the work that they have been doing over time that are suspect, right? And so we have to be very careful how we tamper with our sovereignty as a people. And so I believe that we will bring a balanced but firm approach and a humane approach to this matter. We called for a select committee on immigration so that we could properly investigate the granting of work permits, permanent residencies, citizenship, where we want even persons who benefited from the illegal use of our system to testify on that network, that, for lack of a better word, underground railroad that had been established by folks, so that we are able to break up those kinds of illegal systems. The PLP voted against a select committee because, and one of the reasons a select committee is necessary, MJ and Naughty, governments alone are not sufficient to fix immigration where Bahamian people believe all of y'all responsible for this. So what a select committee does is it allows persons from the private sector,
experts,
civil society.
I would love to see that.
All to participate in giving testimony, in presenting evidence.
And to helping us find solutions, right?
To find solutions, to identify some of the bad actors who are gatekeepers.
Right.
And to be given immunity for being a whistleblower. This administration is fearful of whistleblowers. You remember the Prime Minister, when he was in opposition, was big on blowing a whistle in the event that a woman feels that she's...
Now,
not
a great idea.
Now they intimidate whistleblowers, right? So the former director of immigration, who had the courage to write an internal document chastising but really challenging a minister to provide proof that the decisions you are making was supported by the law and cabinet decisions, and was, in my view, was treated poorly, right? Was treated badly. The deputy was on administrative leave. So if you want to convince people you believe in freedom of information and you are prepared to strengthen any whistleblowing provisions in any legislation, you wouldn't treat those persons in immigration like that. You wouldn't treat the nurse who is raising the alarm of potential hazards to people's life.
God bless her, yeah.
And yet they are being punished. And so this we will be different than them. So people say, well, there's no difference. There's a huge difference between them. A Michael Pintard in the chair would be working with a Chief Justice to say, how could you bring these cases that if you don't get answers in these court cases, it could undermine the credibility of our institution? I would be working overtime in discussions with the Chief Justice. How do we get a case where a robbery takes place, armored car robbery is the term is used, takes place. As a result of that one robbery, there are probably about 7 bodies.
Which is very,
the
very
fact
sad.
that multiple persons were murdered, this should be such a critical issue in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that politicians would forget just shaking. He would shake the tree. He would pick up and go through to determine what are the bad fruits and would deal with it. All was done was speeches. There's been no commitment by the leader, the CEO of the country, to get to the bottom of a carnage of at least 7 persons. I mean, there are various points, and I'm just so again, we have a very serious problem in the country, and we need leadership that has the moral character and fortitude to take on these issues, not because we are looking just to punish 1 or 2 people, but we are looking to clean up a system to protect the good reputation of the many good police officers, immigration officers, defense force officers, but you have to take out of the system the bad actors.
We want to, I'm going to hold you to that show just on immigration because we could do that for hours, but I want to talk a little bit about tourism. You know, we hear the numbers. There's an uptick in visitors. You know, I think we hit 12 million this year, but air arrivals have dropped.
And still can't pay the bills.
It's hard. Air arrivals have
dropped. I think it's like 14%.
Have gone down.
What was it that you came up with? Like 84% go to the
and climbing comes through the cruise ships,
and only 16 residual left for us to make.
And then it was interesting listening to our Deputy Prime Minister last night, Mr. Cooper, and he talked about ownership. You know, the next term will be ownership. No offense, but it kind of sounded like
next time we'll deal with
the poor. Listen to me. When I heard it last night, when he said, next time it's about ownership, the first thing that came in my mind was the well, I wouldn't say misspeak or mistake, but what our former Prime Minister said, next time for the poor. That is what I heard, because if this is supposed to be a new day, and we were rebounding from our economy being in one position coming up, then why wasn't this 5 years about ownership for Bahamians?
So in other words, he was saying they didn't make the progress that they projected in 2021.
So next time it'll be.
So we got you next time.
I didn't like that. It really sounded like next time.
I think the voter when going into the booth and he say, "You got me." Say, "Yeah, next time, next time, bro.
Goodness.
We got you."
But tourism and ownership in our economy, this is our number one industry. What are we not doing right, and what can we do better?
Right. So I've had the benefit of good advice from a number of persons like Vincent van der Poel Wallace, persons like Joy Jibalu. There are so many talented Bahamians who have clear ideas on how we can increase stopover visitors and reduce stopover visitors being converted into cruise passengers.
That's what's happening.
You all would remember I was saying in the House over and over that the Deputy Prime Minister is patting himself on the back, occasionally beating his chest about these increase in cruise arrival. And we started calling him the Minister of Cruises, right? Because we're saying, listen.
But there's nothing to the bottom line. Bahamians aren't impacted by it.
Let us be grateful for cruise passengers and their spend.
Course.
However, let us not overemphasize that to the detriment, to your point, Naughty, that the largest revenue that flows in from tourism flows in through stopover visitors. So whereas a cruise passenger may spend between $100 and $200 on a good day, $2,000 is spent by a stopover visitor. And what we have seen in the state of Florida is a corresponding decrease in stopover visitors coming from Florida. And you know the Eastern Seaboard is the main source of our tourists. And a corresponding increase in cruise passengers. Yeah. So when the Deputy Prime Minister was being cheeky and saying, man, just come in and I could share the figures with you, being condescending, I said, no, bro, it's no need. These are the same figures your ministry sent to the Caribbean Tourism Organization. We just drawing on your figures. So, and we're not gloating in that fact. What we are saying is you need a strategic plan. What an F&M government will do is build a strategic plan on how to increase the number of stopover visitors.
Quick question for you in regards to tourism. I just need a quick answer because we're running down. I got to try get one or two left in there. Well, if the F&M is the next administration of the country, will you look at allowing Bahamian tour companies to be back on major hotel properties? There's a monopoly now, allegedly, headed up by someone who works and sits in the office of the Prime Minister, who owns a fleet of powerboats, so on and so forth. And there is a monopoly, meaning you have to use their service in order to book anything.
Well, that's a problem.
And there's been a myriad
that is a problem.
Of tour companies that I've experienced over my lifetime. Majestic
so they have an exclusivity.
Tours,
you mean sort of like
Bahamas experience,
like moorings,
correct?
Like the moorings.
And furthermore, we shouldn't be allowing our tourist bookings to be handled by a Jamaican entity that books in general for Jamaican resorts that are here in the Bahamas. We need to have Bahamians back in that game.
Listen,
and all of the products that they push will allow us to get the trickle down. That's definitely one thing we have to understand, that Bahamians will be put back in the game.
Tourism should benefit first and foremost, but not exclusively, Bahamians. That's the reality. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we have failed to do successfully that we will do is we will create more world-class attractions so that even those who come off the cruise, that they are going to Bahamian enterprises so that our people could earn revenue. And that's a part of the problem. We are not creating fast enough and often enough these attractions so that we could benefit. We have to also be careful of making private islands consistently available to cruise ships, which then again narrows the even the cruise spend to the cruise industry. And so I'm grateful for, because I believe cruise relationships have been beneficial.
Yes.
But we have to be careful because we're heading down a dangerous road, because what was missing in the product for the cruise, and I'm not angry with them. I'm just jealous that they're working in their interest.
Smart
they're working in their interest, but we are not working in our interest. We provided them with the beach, which was the missing component.
They didn't have, and we gave it to them.
And so we need to work for Bahamians. We also need to make sure that the money in the Tourism Development Corporation is transparently made available to again, creatives and others who can create attractions. We need an accounting of that. And one of the problems that tourism has is what the rest of the government has. They do not engage in competitive bidding in a manner that's known to the public.
Let me ask you this question. This is going to be one that's on the minds of Bahamians.
And I have
we
more.
saw the jump in, the back and forth with the VAT, 10%, 5%, now 0%. So anyway, where we are right now is that it's at 0% on unprepared foods. I know that you have spoken about how your party will remove VAT off essential items. Is that in addition to it remaining at 0 rated for unprepared food? So in other words, you talk about essential items, it'll be removed from that. But are you going to keep it 0 rated for unprepared food should your party be successful in the next general election?
Right. So we've made a commitment that there are several categories: female, feminine, hygiene products, baby products, of health services, education. All of these are areas that we ought to and food of course. So we need to make sure that we reduce those costs. And again, as the economy grows, people are in a better position. We should leave our options available in terms of how we maneuver with our tax system, because every country needs revenue. So this is not a race to the bottom of eliminating all forms of revenue. We have to keep it real. But again, when people are facing inflation, when they are exceptionally vulnerable, governments ought to use the lever they have available in order to assist them without compromising our ability to earn money to sustain the country. Because healthcare is an example of where you move from fees that if I go to hospital, I should be expected to pay. My salary allows me to. You don't charge persons like me, and then the system deteriorates because you don't have the resources to purchase the things you need.
Okay, I got one quick question for you from the newsroom.
Sure.
And then obviously, we get one call in. I want to thank you on behalf of my better half for being here again. We're going to hold it to you possibly next week for that whole show on immigration.
You said the newsroom. Yes, I do forgive you for not giving us additional coverage news, right? I just tell them, I forgive them. No problem. We love you.
I can make sure they give you additional coverage once you answer this one from the newsroom. Just in a quick nutshell, this could be potentially the biggest story tomorrow. So obviously, everybody listens to
your big stories, so that's normally goes south, though.
Go ahead.
Real quick, in a nutshell, what is your take on the comments of Mr. Brent Simonet regarding Adriel Moxie situation?
Of Mr.
Simonet's comments.
I haven't had a chance to read it. I was busy with the ratification of our candidates, etc. But I'll become familiar with it, and if you wanted to check me on that another time.
Well, I think I could give just a little bit of background. Mr. Simonet was recently in the news saying that when the gentleman who has now been found guilty and sentenced to 40 years in prison, when he is released, that it would be inhumane to send him back to Haiti or to the country that he's from. I understand he has some irregularities in terms of his status. So I guess the question is...
let me become familiar with the issue. But I believe we need to send the strongest possible message to anyone who violates a child, much less kill a child.
Right.
So I won't be fighting in any respect on their behalf in no category of the punishment being meted out to them. I mean, that's me. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I have one child, and it's difficult for me to conceptualize having more than an ounce of sympathy for somebody who does something to her. I can tell you that's my position, but I'll become familiar with what he
There you
said.
go, newsroom. All right, newsroom, I did my best.
Thank
please,
you
more
so-
coverage on Mr. Pintard moving forward.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation and hearing your plans for the future.
Thank
but
you.
we will hold
Thank
you
you.
to that immigration discussion because it's a long one.
And we got to talk about legalization and decriminalization of marijuana and a couple other things too, because we didn't get to address the DeAndre Ayton situation today. But I want to thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
And for being so candid.
Love DeAndre Ayton. I went to, when he was drafted, I was Minister of Sports and went to support him.
Good stuff.
But already we know that we should be expunging the record of persons who are caught with small quantities of marijuana for personal use. We shouldn't be jailing them. I mean, that time has
Next week we got immigration and legalization.
But Naughty, there are other plans other than.
I know.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, just so
You got it. And they make good money too, and they're legal. Once you do it in agriculture,
thank you so
cruise
much,
ship industry,
Mr.
cruise ship road,
Pintard.
hemp plant. Let's go.
We appreciate your time.
I'm rapping around the world for Africa to New York.